Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Today, we're doing another video that's gonna be kind of like the Resident Evil one, where I kind of just sit here and chat about some stuff. So, it is not going to be an actual game I'm gonna be playing, but I still wanted to kind of mess around with this idea in my head of doing these kind of videos every now and then and see how it goes and how you guys like it and how I like it. And I don't know, like, we'll see what happens. But anyways, today I wanted to talk about horror games and like the whole situation with in a lot of horror games I feel like you are always walking somewhere or running somewhere or I guess in some cases you're like crawling, crouching, whatever you want to say. Very rarely I feel like, at least in the majority of horror games, unless it's specifically a horror game, and there are horror games that are specifically dedicated to like you're in a car or the car is like an enemy and you're in another car. And it's like, okay, that's something different entirely. But I'm talking about like horror games in general as a whole. I feel like a lot of the times you're always walking, running, crouching, doing whatever. You're going through like forests, roads. Obviously, if you're going through like buildings and stuff, I know that that would make sense that you're walking, but there's like a lot of walking involved in horror games. And I'm just saying, like, after playing Alan Wake, I was just thinking, like, why don't more horror games have a situation where, like, if we need to get somewhere, why don't they give us the option of, like, okay, now you're gonna have to, like, drive this car, and maybe, like, some crazy stuff can happen during that, or, some kind of, like, other mode of, like, transportation, I suppose, other than just, like, walking or running. Especially in a horror game, like I'll use Alan Wake as an example because this is the most recent one I have for an example. But especially a game like Alan Wake's, where there is so much walking and there is so much forest, and I don't know. I get it also from a game developer's perspective. Is like, if your character is walking or running through an area, it's easier to arrange that area for like fights to happen, for enemies to come out and jump you. Obviously there's games like Amnesia and Outlast and stuff where it's like, okay, if you were driving a car, then it wouldn't be like scary if an enemy came up on you as much, because that kind of takes away from the whole like survival feeling of it. But I almost feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it would be kind of interesting. I guess I'm just like kind of interested, and this is just like totally a bias like thing that I don't know if I'm the only one that is interested in this. I don't know if other people have ever been like, I wonder. But I also think of, and this is an example I'm also going to use just because it's so relevant and recent in my mind, is like the Resident Evil 4 DLC. Obviously, Ada has like a grapple hook, and to go from playing the main story to then playing the DLC where you have Ada and you have a grapple hook as kind of like this extra set of like, it really changed the pacing and like the feel of like traversal. Like suddenly we could go up higher places, we could reach points that we would not have been able to reach if we were Leon, or if you were just like you would in a normal in the normal Resident Evil games. I don't know of any other characters in the Resident Evil games that have grapple hooks, so I could be incorrect in. I don't want to assume Ada's the only one that has that. But I would say that that was a unique thing about like her story, is like then there was like this new traversal option. So maybe it's just like I feel like the traversal options in horror games could maybe be like a little, like we could play around with them more, is what I'm saying. Um and I feel like grapple hooks or like cars, like stuff like that, it's like, okay, that kind of adds like a new like element to it, because then you can kind of start to switch things up, and it's like the pacing changes, the environment can change, the type of like enemies you might put into that situation could change, because you're working with a different set of circumstances. Whereas if you're like running or walking, um, like I feel like at the end of the day, I guess it would depend on like what you're going for and like what's going to happen and how you want things to work out. And admittedly, like the car sections like in Alan Wake, I did not find those sections scary because you could just drive through through the enemies. So yeah, I feel like if you did do that, there would have to be some kind of maybe some scary stuff happening. But even if there wasn't scary stuff happening, maybe you just have driving sequences where that's where then like some story happens or some lore. Some stuff could happen in the car as you're getting to a spot, and yeah, I guess you could do that also. Um, but more so I want it to be more like I'm leaning more towards actually now that I'm talking about it more towards the grapple hook thing. Cuz I feel like that's a really fun mechanic to add into a horror game. And now I'm just wondering like what kind of besides like a grapple hook, like what kind of other things you could throw into a horror game to kind of change up the pacing of it, to change like areas, like give weapons or objects or something that lets your characters get to a spot um that maybe isn't like it's like a unique way that they have to get to a spot, I suppose is what I'm saying. So I don't know, that's something to think about. Obviously at the end of the day, I'm not a game developer, and I'm not here to tell anybody like this is what they do, and I don't even know how big of a thing this is probably not a unique I don't know that this is a unique take. I'm sure I'm not the first person to be like, "Hey, the grapple hook in the DLC was pretty cool. I'd like more horror games with grapple hooks, please." But I feel like those are like some ideas to work off of, right? Like I don't know, like Ada's got a grapple hook. What can we give other characters that would be like just as cool and would maybe also change up the way that they interact with the environment or they interact with enemies or how they get from point A to point B. Like it really changes things. So that's why I'm just like, ooh, grapple hooks, cars, swimming even, really, now that I think about it. I can't think of off the top of my head. Probably like, well, Soma, obviously you were underwater. You weren't really like swimming per se. You were more like walking underwater. More like, okay, there you go. That's another example. Like, so Soma put you into a different situation where you're not just like walking through a forest, but you are walking underwater. But then you go from like water to not water, not water. Like you go into buildings where then the water is taken down, and then you're fine. So that's something also I feel like is kind of interesting. That changes it up a bit. So um, but also just like maybe just swimming sequences in general. Like I feel like horror games there's always those parts where you have to walk through water or there's like a water section, but like what if you had to swim through the water and it's like you're like this water is definitely not going to be safe, but now you're being forced to go through it in a different way than like what you usually would. And then obviously stuff could happen, or there could be jump scares there or something like that you could play around with. I don't know. That's just something that I feel like would be interesting. So there's probably like a lot more. And I'm not saying that like it's like I'm sure there are more horror games where like cars have been a thing. Maybe there's more traversal things in other horror games that I just cannot think of off the top of my head. But I feel like when you think about like the really big, like the major popular horror games, like you're always walking or running is a lot of the way. Um so I don't know. It would kind of be something interesting to maybe see like I just wonder especially from like these bigger games. Like, you know, somebody like Capcom could definitely do it. Like, okay, we saw Capcom give a character a grapple hook. Like, what can they do? What can they do next? Like, what can we have next that would be something different and add a little spin to some things is what I'm saying. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If am I crazy for saying that like maybe we should think about this? Um, I don't know. But that is my little ramble for today. It's a lot shorter than last time because I started a lot later and I ran out of time. I've been doing these on my lunch break, so it also just kind of forces me to keep it shorter, which is probably good for right now because, like I said, I don't know if this is going to become a series. I don't really know what this is going to become. I'm kind of just like fucking around with the idea and seeing what happens. So yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. Let me know what you want to see next. If you like these kind of videos, if you don't like these kind of videos, if you just want me to go back to playing games, that's also cool. But I'm gonna mess around with it for right now, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. And in the meantime, if you are looking for any horror games to watch, definitely check down below. I have the full Resident Evil 4 remake playlist. It is literally my favorite game I have ever made content for. And just recently, we finished Alan Wake. That playlist is slowly coming together on the channel as well. So if you want to start watching my first playthrough of Alan Wake Remastered, that is also coming up. And those videos are also somewhere around here, or I'll have them linked at the end. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye.